Hello, welcome. Dr. Sushma Singh this side. Today in Unit 25 Urbanization, we are going to start our lecture with the topic Theories of Urbanization. Cities from the central point of urban sociology, like many other sociological categories, the city is an abstraction composed of concrete entities like residences and shops and an assortment of many functions. A place is legally made a city by a declaration by a competent authority. Sorokin and Zimmerman enumerates 8 characteristics in which the urban world differs from the rural world. These are occupation, environment, size of community, density of population, heterogeneity, social differentiation and stratification, mobility, and system of interactions. The study of cities was a subject that had already explored in the second part of the 19th century in early classical sociology with its celebrated dichotomies such as many distinction between the status and contract and Morgan's contrast between the savagery and barbarism and civilization. This aspect was further developed by the Tony, who contrasted Jamie Inscraft and Jesse Scraft, and by Durkheim, who distinguished between mechanical and organic solidarity. Tony's and Durkheim believed that Jamie Inscraft type of social organization or mechanical solidarity is fully developed in cities, particularly in modern cities. In 1920 to 1940s, a number of sociologists from the University of Chicago put forward ideas which for many years were the chief basis for theories and research on urban sociologies. Two strands of Chicago school that we are going to examine are the ecological approach and the urbanism as a way of life approach developed by Wirth. Now let us move to the point Louis Wirth, urbanism as a way of life. Wirth was one of the pioneers of the study of urbanism, and his was the first systematic attempt to distinguish the concepts of urbanism and urbanization. His social psychological theory investigates the human behavior in an urban environment. He indicated that size, density, and heterogeneity, regarded as the principal traits in defining cities, are conducive to specific behavioral patterns and moral attitudes. For him, a city is a relatively large, dense, and permanent settlement of socially heterogeneous individuals. Urbanism is that complex of traits that makes up the characteristic mode of life in cities. Urbanism as a way of life may be approached empirically from three interrelated perspectives: as a physical structure comprising a population base, a technology, and an ecological order; as a system of social organization involving a characteristic social structure, a series of social institutions, and a typical pattern of social relationships; and as a set of attitudes and ideas and a consolidation of personalities engaging in typical form of collective behavior and subject to characteristic mechanism of social control. Louis Wirth shows two kinds of forces operating in urban society: the force of segregation and the melting pot effect, which has mainly unifying aspect like uniform system of administration, etc. However, he concludes that urban society is based on a means to end rationality, which is exploitative and where the individual is isolated through anonymity. Wirth believed that the density of life in cities produced neighborhoods which have the distinct characteristics of traditional communities. Wirth theory is important for its recognition that urbanism is not just part of the society but expresses and influences the wider social system. However, Wirth's observations are based on American cities, which are generalized to urban centers everywhere where situations are different. Now let us move to the next point, the ecological approach. In natural sciences, the term ecology is used to understand the relationship plants and animals have with their environment. The term is used in a similar way to understand the process of urbanization by such scholars as Robert Park, Ernst Burgess, and Amos Halvey. The scholars of ecological approach feel that the cities do not grow randomly but grow along lines and in response to the features which are advantageous to it along rivers, near natural resources, in the intersection of trading routes, etc. They feel that cities become ordered in the natural areas through a process of competition, invasion, and succession. Patterns of location, movement, and relocation in cities follow similar principles. These scholars view city as a map of areas with distinct characteristics. Burgess sees them as concentric zones, central business district with the concentration of trade, retail business, and related activities are located. The transition zone to the outer fringe, which he called the commuter zone, the satellite town and suburbs. Process of invasion and succession occur within these segments. Some of the principles of these theories can be applied to the Indian situation, especially to growths such as suburbs such as Gurgaon at the outer fringe of the Delhi or the growth of suburbs in Bombay, but largely the theory is based on the American cities which have distinct characteristics. The theory also underemphasizes the role of planning and the design in cities. Now let us move to the next point, that is urbanism and created environment, Harvey and Castells. Most recent theorists such as David Harvey and Manuel Castells have stressed that urbanism is not an autonomous process but is part of a large political and economic processes and changes. In modern urbanism, Harvey points out that space is continually restructured. The process is determined by large firms who decide where they should open their business, factories, etc., and by policies, controls, and initiatives asserted by governments which can change the landscape of a city. Like Harvey, Castells stresses that the special form of a city is very much related to the larger process of the society. To this, Castells further adds that the dimension of the struggles and conflicts of the various groups who make up the cities. He gives the examples of gay community who have reorganized the structure of San Francisco City. He believes that it is not only the big corporations, business and governments who influence the shape of a city but also the communities and groups who live in the cities. Harvey and Castells analysis of urbanization and urban situation adds an important dimension, the political economy of a system. Here we want to close this lecture. Thanks for listening.